name is Brent Cartmill Heath, and I am one of the owners of Brent and Becky's Bulbs. I was blessed to have been born here in Gloucester County, Virginia, and I was well born because of my grandfather, Charles Heath, who was a damn Yankee, which means he brought something of value. Otherwise, he'd still just be a Yankee. He ate a cantaloupe one day in his retirement in New York City. It was so good he went to the grocer and asked him to order a case a week. Down here in Gloucester, the gentleman farmer who supplied the cantaloupe was so pleased that the Yankee gentleman liked his cantaloupe, he put a note inviting my grandfather to come for a visit. My grandfather got on the next steamer and came south to visit Thomas Dixon, a gentleman author who had written a book called Land of the Life Worth Living, another one, Leopard Spots, which later became Birth of a Nation. He spent a month with Mr. Dixon, and Mr. Dixon showed him around and told him about a property across the river that was for sale. My grandfather got there and found that he liked it a lot. It was a lovely old Georgian house, and it had 600 acres and a steamboat landing. Well, he paid $6,000 for it in 1900. And at that point, he realized that he was a country gentleman and that he could do a dream that he'd had for years. The trigger came to him in ladies bringing picked daffodils, and you do pick daffodils, you don't cut them, down to the steamboat landing to ship the flowers to Baltimore to be sold on the street corner. Well, he'd been in Europe in the consular service. He'd seen modern big hybrid daffodils, and he thought, wow, the little wild ones grow well here. So I bet these bigger hybrids would. He brought bulbs here, planted them. They grew so well that he began to sell them to local farmers, who then in turn picked the flowers in the spring to sell to northern markets. And during the Depression, Gloucester County was so well known for its daffodils, and the daffodil was a reasonably priced flower that it was dubbed the poor man's rose. Well, that was all nice and fine until an embargo came along with bulbs from Holland and Europe because of a nematode infestation there. They were restricted to shipping to the United States. Well, a Dutch company came and approached my grandfather, who had 300 acres of daffodils at that time, and asked him if he would grow daffodils for them. And at that point, my father came back from a business in California and working in the tobacco industry in China, and my grandfather asked him to take over the business. He moved the daffodil farm from Matthews County across the river to Gloucester, land of the life worth living. And he, at one point, had probably the world's largest daffodil farm. And that was up until the Second World War came along, which disrupted, of course, any kind of industry like that. And at that point, he married my mother, his fourth wife. And at age 60, I came along. That was a bit of a surprise, but they had started a retail mail-order flower bulb business called the Daffodil Mart. And at one point, they were growing thousands of different varieties of daffodils. My father had traveled to wherever daffodils were being hybridized, bred, and he had the world's largest collection of daffodils. I grew up picking the flowers when it's cold in the early spring and you got blisters on your pointer finger, and then you go to your salute finger, and then you go to your other fingers, and then you become left-handed. I got 2 cents a bunch for picking them. Then the hard, hot, dirty work of digging the bulbs in the summer, I had sort of decided that wasn't for me, for my future. And my first job after working here and after college, running a summer camp for kids called Nature Camp at Vesuvius, Virginia, where we taught kids sensory perception to see the world around them. We taught their fingertips to see, to touch things, to smell things, to listen, even to taste. At that point, my father had died, and my mother wanted to sell the business. And an aunt died and left me enough money to buy the business from my mother, and something inside of me, even though I didn't really relish picking flowers and digging the bulbs, something made me want to do it. And so I then purchased the business from my mother, and she came to work for me. We grew the business back to a larger size. I had a starter marriage in Matthews. The marriage didn't work. And Becky, it turns out, was teaching one of my children. It took me a long time to get her attention. She caught mine right away. But at that point, I married well. Again, not bucks, but brains. It didn't take me too long to realize that I didn't need to be in charge.
My name is Becky Heath. I'm president and CEO of Brent and Becky's Bulbs. I'm an educator. I had children, and I had hundreds of them on stage, or I had a group of 10 in a reading group, depending on which year we're talking about. And so I'm going into business of which I know nothing about. One of the first chores I was asked to do was to type a catalog that had a list of names and a code 4YRSGRN****. And I just asked the question, how do you know what they look like? And the answer was, if you were really interested, you'd be a member of the American Daffodil Society. And I was so shocked. To me, that was such a narrow-minded answer. I just smiled and said, maybe people would like them in their yards just because they're pretty. And the reaction that I got was, oh, you think so? And this must happen to a lot of wonderful people in the world that are so smart. But they started in the particular field so early because they grew up in it. They have no memory of anybody sitting down and teaching them anything. Everything was by osmosis. And the assumption was, if you didn't know it, it must be because you're not interested. The answer always was, we've always done it this way.
Becky helped me when she came to realize that I didn't have a limited market of collectors, that there were many more people who might like to enjoy gardening with our bulbs.
I had already begun to encourage Brent to take pictures and give talks. The Perennial Plant Association, which is a national organization that has members in all 50 states, had a conference in Baltimore, and they asked Brent to give a talk. It was his first national talk in front of a national organization. And he had to write a 2.5-page synopsis of his hour talk to get the $500 they were going to pay him. And in those days, that was a heck of a lot of money in our budget. And so I reminded him that he needed to do that. And after a month, he decided, you know what, I'm not doing it. I transcribed that whole 60-minute talk, smushed it down to 2.5 pages, put his name at the top, submitted it, got the $500. A national garden magazine called and asked if they could publish that article. And of course, we said yes, and they asked for pictures, and we had some pictures, and then they sent photographers down and took pictures of us planting bulbs here on our farm. That was the first national exposure in a color magazine. Our business just jumped. And so it was just that opening the door of education. It isn't that he didn't believe me that education was important, but this was the proof, and you couldn't stop him after that. So he's the voice, and he's so good at it. And I do his PowerPoints for him, so we make a good team.
Our son Jay, he came with Becky, but I feel like he's my son, so I call him my son. And he is our general manager, and he brought with him a smart woman, Denise, who runs our retail shop, coordinates events at the business, and I just feel very blessed that Jay and Denise want to come along and take it on and keep it going.
My name is Jay Hutchins, and I'm the general manager of Brent and Becky's.
My name is Denise Hutchins, and I'm the facilitator of fun at Brent and Becky's.
When I was a kid, I remember all the time that we had with my folks, because it was basically a 6-month company. Spring was busy looking, summer was busy digging, and fall was busy shipping. But then you were done in the winter. In the spring, you're just enjoying the fruits of your labor. Then you start working again in the summer and the fall. And by incorporating other types of bulbs and then eventually plants, it's given us a way to not just paint with one brushstroke. Now we've got different types of brushstrokes that we can help create a year-round garden.
I think we all have a focus on education, whether it's the natural world, bulbs, the environment, sustainability, all of that kind of comes into play with the different gardening aspects that we teach. Our focus is always looking at how to provide the best experience for the customer.
Having Jay and Denise on board has opened our world to the actual Gloucester community and Matthews and surrounding area to come and visit. So it has been such a pleasure to watch it evolve through the years. Has more to do with them than Brent and I.
If I'm going through the day-to-day operations of our company and we're doing the same thing over, I'm always like, all right, where are we going next? What are we doing next? That's what gets me up in the morning.
It's fun to find new products that we get excited about it, our customers will get excited about, something new and something different in the garden. Jay and I go to Holland each year to look for what's new and up and coming down the pipeline in the next few years, and that's always interesting to see how things are changing and evolving and what the breeders are working on, but also to find the tried and true that the customers really enjoy.
When Denise and I go to Holland, I'm always looking for something different. If you ask 100 people to draw a picture of a daffodil, what you're going to get is 98 drawings of a yellow daffodil, because that's what people think of. But to know that right now, there are true red colors that are emerging out of these new hybrid daffodils. Bright lipstick red colors in a cup. Pinks that are in the petals. I mean, the colors that are starting to come out. Greens, green daffodil. The different heights, the different fragrances. A daffodil that smells like a rose. Those are the cool things. And that's what I'm always looking for when we go to Holland.
We're in the business of helping people to smile. We're in the business of making people want to do something positive. I'm in front of an audience now and I ask, how many of you work in your gardens? And they all raise their hands. And I go like this and say, oh, it's a damn shame. Do you work at cards? Do you work at golf? Do you work at tennis? Why don't you play in your gardens? So we need to get people out seeing the world that we're part of, and I'm blessed that I'm enabled to do that.
The most important thing that's been passed down that I've picked up is just caring. Caring about our growers and those relationships, caring about our customers' experience and results. The fact that we go through and touch every order that ever goes out of our warehouse, to feel, to look, is this what we would want to receive? If there's one bad bulb in a bag of 10, that bad one comes out and a good one goes in. It's making sure that it's as perfect as we can get it from start to finish.
We are focused on education and we're focused on their experience and helping them to do the best that they can. So we're always there for a phone call or an email or anything like that to come by and see the shop and get different ideas and learn about what else is out there. We just want to be very open and transparent with our customers that we are here for their support.
There are people that are shocked that they call the office and we'll give them Brent's cell phone number, or Becky may answer the phone.
We are reachable. And I don't think in today's world that's as normal as it used to be.
Innovation has helped, changing with the times has helped, but I think our whole attitude towards people is, We are simply the vendors of smiles. We'll never be the biggest, but we want to be the best.
To see where this company has come from Charles Heath coming down from New England and farming the land that is actually over my left shoulder that you can see in the distance, to it growing over here into Gloucester, and what George and Katie did with the business, Brent's mom and dad. And to see where Brent and Becky have taken it since from when I was a child to today, and where Denise and I see the business going, it's astonishing. And we're so proud to still be here 125 years later, doing what we're passionate about. And that's why we're taking the time to celebrate this monumental accomplishment and celebrating our 125th. We're happy. We're looking for the next 125 years.